If you know Navy history, you might think the worst ordnance incident ever was on board the USS Forrestal, but that was the second worst. And you've probably never heard of number one until now. By mid 1944 at Port Chicago, California, ships were being loaded with ordnance before heading to war in the Pacific. The crews loading these weapons were African Americans overseen by white junior officers, mostly reservists. The conditions were abysmal. These black sailors had no formal training in bomb handling and were worked to exhaustion, sometimes enduring double or triple shifts while being forced to race each other while their officers bet on them. But when inspectors came through, everything looked safe because they were ordered to pretend it was. And on July 17th, 1944, the SS E.A. Bryan was in port being loaded for deployment. At 22:18, workers reported hearing a loud metallic crash and wood splintering. Moments later, a massive explosion ripped through the port. Instantly, a fireball 3 miles in diameter swallowed the entire harbor and more. The blast registered as a 3.4 magnitude earthquake. The Bryan was disintegrated, and another ship was torn to pieces and blown out of the water. A nearby Coast Guard barge was thrown 600 feet, killing her crew. Everything within 1,000 feet was vaporized, and 302 men were killed instantly. 202 of them were the black sailors. Survivors immediately began fighting fires and rescuing the wounded. 200 workers were recognized for valor in the aftermath. But 1 month later, it was back to business as usual. And on August 9th, the black sailors were ordered to resume loading bombs under the same unsafe conditions. The workers then spontaneously refused to work out of fear of another incident. 300 sailors essentially went on strike. They were immediately arrested and imprisoned. After long talks that included severe threats, execution was even on the table, only 50 held out for safer conditions. They became known as the Port Chicago 50. They were court-martialed in what amounted to a show trial and found guilty of mutiny, sentenced to up to 15 years of hard labor and a dishonorable discharge. Many found this appalling since, as a fact of matter, they had no business handling that ordnance in the first place. These men were not trained for this job, and some were even injured. One had a broken arm at that time. After major pressure from activists, the NAACP, the Secretary of the Navy, and even the President's wife, the men had their sentences reduced and received general discharges without prison time. A naval investigation determined none of the safety issues, long hours, lack of training, or even betting games were responsible for the explosion. Instead, it was the black handlers who were called neither temperamentally nor intellectually capable of handling high explosives. This national tragedy is largely unknown, which is a shame because this event is credited with the Navy's push to desegregate more quickly than the other branches. In July 2024, 80 years later, the Navy formally exonerated all the men charged in the incident, including the Chicago 50. And in an almost supernatural twist, the Secretary of the Navy in July 1944 was none other than James Forrestal himself. This video was recommended by a viewer, so who do you think I should talk about next on this channel?